As we start open discussion, there are a couple of, Tess, do you want to go over these?
We really just have one ground rule, which is just recognize that people have had, so everyone here has had different lived experiences, and just recognize that your experiences may be different from other people's experiences, and that your experiences do not invalidate their experiences, and their experiences do not invalidate your experiences. And so if we just approach this conversation sort of keeping that in mind, and everyone keeping things open-minded and respectful, because it is like a delicate subject, that would be really awesome. And also, if for any reason someone asks you to stop talking, please respect that as well. Yeah, I mean, the problem, it's a way, way bigger problem than hackathons, right? It's a problem that goes back to like elementary school when boys are given Legos and girls are given Barbies. Like, it's like a really deep problem. And so the question is just like, what can you do about it at the point that you can make a difference? And so I think we've made a lot of, like, I think it's just like you can control what you can control, and like whatever everything that you do, just be sure to be like inclusive about it.
One thing I wanted to say was, you're asking like how soon you can do it. Like, even before you make an announcement that you're having your hackathon, like, already start looking. You know, what does your design material look like? What is the wording on your release going to look like? Like, I mean, it is a super early kind of thing. I mean, right after maybe booking a date, that's like the next thing you need to look at.
And I think that also, like, something like adopting a code of conduct, you can do that now. Like, you can do that right now. You can be like, okay, this is our code of conduct, done. You don't need to, like, wait, right? Like, you can do it whenever. So the question was, when you reach out and talk to different campus groups of underrepresented populations, what can you do? Taylor, or
Yeah, I think
Taylor, do you want to take this one? Reaching out.
Okay, so reaching out to underrepresented.
Like when you go to talk to them.
When you go talk to them. Okay, so like, you know, you could probably improve on this, but I'll just go over what I did. So like, I wanted to first say what a hackathon was, like that. Hack Texas had been around for a year. That what a hackathon was, I tried to watch my wording so that I was not using the word hack a lot. I was more talking about creating new projects, working, meeting new people. And a lot of it was, I instantly started getting questions. And I love that because, and make sure you already tell people, like, you can start asking me questions whenever you're going to talk to them, because you want them to feel welcome. And it also helped, I know in my situation, we're all females in the room, and I was a female. I mean, I think it made some people more comfortable, especially when a lot of them were like freshmen, and they were even new to computer science and were considering going, and some of them did come, even though they had only taken maybe one CS course. So, I mean, definitely I made them know that there's things that they can do there that, you know, doesn't mean just because lack of knowledge. And I mean, that's a general solution for anyone who, you know, has a barrier of entry to a hackathon, not just an underrepresented group. Like, you know, just getting freshmen at your hackathon, things like that.
Yes? Yeah, I'm really glad you asked that question. So the question was basically boiled down to the like MHAC's approach, which was more public versus a more like quiet, grassroots kind of outreach, person-to-person outreach approach. So this is actually a discussion. So if anyone has any like insight that you want to share on your own opinions, that would be awesome.
We went from 59 at the previous MHACs to 152, and that was just me walking around and counting. So I don't know how accurate that is, but that's it's.
Oh, on the topic of counting,
So-
can I add to that?
Yes,
so
yes.
okay, so I make sure that our form has lots of options when it comes to people wanting to fill in gender. Also, if people don't want to really fill in, but most of the time, people will fill in. But I actually make it a required option. But if they don't want to, that is an option out of the options. So many options. But it definitely, like, I have lots of friends, and everyone has different experiences and different opinions, and everyone, my life isn't the way other people's lives are, and so you don't want to just please don't make it male and female is what I'm saying.
And the other thing is that if you're just looking for numbers, I know that for pen apps in 2013 spring, 2013 spring, so not the last one, but the one before that, it was, I think, 11% female to male ratio, as compared to, and I think that's common, right? It goes between 4% and about 15%, which is consistently lower than the enrollment in computer science at most of our schools. It's generally between 15 to 20%, sometimes higher. So we are doing worse than our industry, if possible, which is shocking because our industry is not doing well.
Yeah, the biggest thing, this is completely anecdotal, but the biggest difference I saw from MHAX 2 to MHAX 3 was MHAX 2, if you looked around randomly, you might not have seen any females around, which is really disappointing. And MHAX 3, if you just turned your head around, there was a very visible change, and I think that actually matters more than any of the metrics that we had actually.
Okay, so the suggestion was to kind of make a system so that people are more willing to take on new hackers. So people are going to a hackathon for the first time, and I think that, personally, I think that kind of reflects back to the perspective or the perception that guys that go off to hackathons are more established in the circuit. I personally just went to Hack Tech and I hacked with 2 guy friends, and neither of them had ever gone to a hackathon before. Yet, from an external perspective, yeah. Oh, okay, yeah. So I think that's awesome. I think that we should be better at matching people to teams. I think that that's a problem that each individual organizer at each individual school is way more capable of doing than perhaps the organizer of the hackathon that they're going to. I think that if, for example, there's a bus going from X school to Penn Apps, then one person at X school would be more capable of taking on that project, which is why I think it's great that everyone is here, because you guys are the ones that can make the difference at your school for people going off to the larger hackathons.
I would also add that I think mentors can go a long way. So if you can have a team of all new people, and they can have a really successful time and learn a lot if you have good mentors who are willing to help people out. And so I think that sort of alleviates the issue of having more experienced people who are in it to win it, as you say, because everyone's in it to learn in that circumstance.
So I have this terrible imposter syndrome because I still sort of believe that I got into college because I was an international. And the thing that I worried about a lot as a hackathon organizer is any step that I do that explicitly targets women makes the imposter syndrome worse, because it both for guys and for girls, both for the majority and the minority in every case, it strengthens the idea of, oh, you're just here because there was an outreach effort. You're not legit, you'd actually just show up because it's a thing to do. And I think whenever anybody makes any efforts, I think MHAC sort of got the pushback on that was specifically because you're exacerbating the issue. So I'd love to hear from Dave and from you guys as well. How do you avoid exacerbating the imposter syndrome?
Dave, do you want to just come stand up here with us?
So I think one of the biggest things that made us more okay with reaching out directly to women and having those tickets is that we didn't have an application. So we weren't trying to differentiate on quality or anything. It was first come, first serve. And then we just hadn't really reached out to women. And so guys had just got all the tickets before we had even done any efforts to reach out. So it was that we sold out of tickets before we even started anything.
So specifically speaking to why outreach events or outreach should not exacerbate imposter syndrome. The one thing that I think gets forgotten a lot of the time is that the strategy is not, for example, to like say, okay, we have filled up with all the people who are qualified, and now we are going to go find women. That is not the way to frame it. The way we are framing it, and the way it is we have filled up with a bunch of people who are qualified, and a bunch of people who are not qualified, or less qualified, or however you want to say it. We just filled up with people. Like some, they have different skills, whatever, and they are mostly male, because that is the society, that's the area we're in. And now we are going to go find women because they're underrepresented, because our current outreach things actively discourage them. So what you're not doing, you're not encouraging on top of like a flat platform. You're encouraging when it's like this. So when you're making those outreach efforts, you don't see it as, oh, I'm going to find people who aren't qualified. You're going to find people who are qualified who you have already actively discouraged with your past actions without meaning to.
Also, Carnegie Mellon does this kind of cool thing where they say, okay, so we're having like a sale because it's free, right? But we're having a pre-sale for women and freshmen, which are two groups that do not necessarily get the like hear about things in time, like as Katie was saying. And so when you have that and you have that like deliberate message, it's not the like, oops, we like filled up and now we have to find more women, but it's, you still have like give women and freshmen an opportunity to like grab tickets before maybe more like networked people like take them all.
Yeah, and I also think that there's a difference between reaching out to people and saying, by the way, there's this event, I think you'll really like it, but really, and saying like, well, we really want you to go because you're a female. Like, I think you should go because you're a girl, versus I think you should go because you may not have heard of this, but it's a cool event, I think you'll like it.
I'm standing awkwardly close to you because Swift told me to. Well, he told me the camera angle. Anyways, so I have part story and then it's entirely ending with a question. So, yeah, is that fine with you? Sweet. Okay, so the part story is that we were really, really lucky at Penn State because we had Kathleen Warner kind of leading our entrepreneurship community, and that really accelerated our whole entrepreneurship department, especially with getting women involved. So after we had Kathleen, now I think we're kind of structured like Empowered, where we have an entrepreneurship group, but we also have a separate hackathon group that's a part of that whole, doesn't matter. On that entrepreneurship group, we have about 50% women, and we do a really, really good job attracting women, and it's not because we found any of these secrets that you guys are talking about, it's just because we have a lot of them and they understand what it's like to be a woman in entrepreneurship. We don't have that for our hacker community at all. So my question is about how do you especially get, and it's almost like an even higher barrier to entry, but like what got you guys motivated in being organizers of hackathons, and how do we inspire and empower women to get involved very, very early stage with actually organizing these things?
So the Hack MIT team is mostly female. And actually, we had no problem getting girls interested in organizing. And I think one thing that really affected that, and this is just a hypothesis, but it relates back to Tess's and Amalia's point about visibility. Hack MIT has 2 female directors. And when we're getting up in front of the group of people who are interested in tech at the TechX, like recruiting talk, when 2 female directors get up and say that they've had a great time organizing this primarily male-dominated event, I think it makes it a little bit more accessible to females who want to join. I don't know if you guys have other experiences that grow.
So I am one of the few females in almost everything I do. I work with Brett Hurt from Bazaar Voice in the entrepreneurship and residence team. I'm the only female. I lead a technology entrepreneurship society, other than one other female who I'm actually working to get more involved with Hack Texas. the no other females, and so it's really hard because when we're getting up there, I don't have a lot of other females to stand next to me and be like, hey, look at us, and so I got involved with Hack Texas because I was running an organization that was co-hosting it, and then I became president of it, and so I became one of the main organizers. So I mean, that was the way I got into it.
I didn't stick around in college long enough to become a hackathon organizer. But I can tell you, face palms all around. But I can tell you how I got into hacking in the first place. And it is a little bit of a chicken and an egg thing, because for me, I looked at who was going to Penn Apps and who was running Penn Apps, and I saw like Amalia, and I saw Ayaka, and I saw these like amazing women who I wanted to be like. And so like for me, it was like very simple to be like, oh, I should like go to this thing because there are these like amazing women I want to, like, who I can sort of see as like role models who I want to emulate, and I want to be like them. And so like obviously if you don't have any women on your organizing team, you have like a little bit of a chicken and egg problem if you want to rely on that kind of way of getting going. But if you have women on your team, if you have female volunteers, like make sure they're visible, like make sure people know they're involved, because that just kind of like helps start the cycle. Yes, I think having people talk is really important. Having women talk is really important.
Do you want to? It's very short. I had a friend I made through one of my classes who was a female Penn Apps organizer, and it's entirely her fault because she was like, "Hey, Alexei, this is gonna be my like follower up," and then Alexei was like, "Okay," so that's how I got it. So I think definitely having like a female, like who's handing off to you is important. Do you wanna?
Yeah, actually, I just had a comment about the communication and what we're talking about with that. It's really, and something that Katie said really resonated with me. It's really important when you're treating this conversation to not treat women as an abstract concept. It's really important to treat them as individuals and people, and we all touched on that a little bit. And I think the way that we could, a way that I see this conversation, because I come from a non-technical background, so the way that I see the conversation of like we need to get more women in tech is because other people are saying we need to get more women in tech. So if you have not a lot of women at your event, it sort of seems as though you're not doing your best to get more women in tech, which is this abstract concept. But the real reasons why we want to get more women involved in any activity or any something like that is the same reason why countries want to get more women involved in their workforce, is because it's economically better. I mean, when you have a larger pool of applicants, you have higher quality things that come out of those activities. And also this weekend is just really great because I have, in this community, this tech community, I haven't been involved with a lot of other female organizers. And women like talking to women, which is another reason why to get more women involved in these events, because I like going to places where there are other women that I can hang out with and be friends with. So I think, it's just important to structure the conversation when you treat women as individuals and not as abstract concepts.
So I guess I'll first introduce myself. I'm Amy Chen. I'm from HackerU. I'm the outreach director. Hey, what's up? Okay. Yes, I am speaking right now. I guess I come into this. So at first I'll talk about how I came into this whole issue. So originally, I wanted to help Dave with the whole bringing women to MHACs thing, and I'll admit that I came in rather bombastically because I was tweeting at everyone, I was putting it all over Facebook, and I realized that I wasn't very sensitive about the issue, and I want for us all to reach a consensus about how we as hackathon organizers can collectively approach this, because I don't think it's come to a final thing yet. So I wanted to go with Katie and Taylor and all of your things where I really appreciate the grassroots method. I think the MHACs method was necessary just to bring the conversation onto the table into the hackathon scene, but I now kind of see that perhaps that was not necessarily the best way to go. So in the future, obviously, we can just keep on editing ourselves. And the other thing I want to touch upon is letting women to organization roles. So the three orgs that I was noticing was Hack MIT, Hack at Brown, and Hack Texas. Because these organizations, I feel like they were very conscious of the issue and helps a lot. Oh, sorry. And sometimes when you're on an organization of all guys, I love them all, but sometimes there's a disconnect because I'm unable to bond with them in the bro way, and I'm really trying. But there's some things that I just will not ever be able to understand or be able to enter that, bro-ness, and I'm really trying hard. But yeah, having women in organizing roles. But yeah.
I'm Diva from Hack FSU. I just wanted to say that all of the shirts at every hackathon fit guys, and I'm sick of it. Please make shirts for me, because all the shirts you guys give me are like 10s. I'm never gonna wear those shirts, but I like the companies and stuff, and it's just not fair, because even like the event shirts, they're always like square shape and they go to my knees. And it's just not gonna work. Work with me, I want to wear shirts too.
Yeah, I want to I am totally on board with this. I actually want to call out the Pen Apps organizers currently that I'm pissed off at them, because since I graduated, this is a women's shirt. They stopped ordering them. Don't do that. It's really annoying. Just stop.
And you want women. I mean, this goes back to the visibility thing, right? If you have hordes of women around campus wearing your hackathon shirt, people are gonna know women go to your event. But if you only see guys wearing the shirt, yes.
Yes on the shirts. Would you guys wear socks?
Yeah. Socks? Yes.
Women do wear socks.
I'm wearing socks right now.
Wait, I want to say something else though.
A couple of ladies over at Hack and Wine last night mentioned that socks were pretty well. Whitney's pretty excited about the socks. I was just wondering, socks, yes?
No, and just another thing, if on the sponsor end, when people sponsor you and bring shirts, if you can request female shirts, because even on that end, the shirts are always super large as well. All right, that's it.
With regard to socks, they're not as visible as shirts. I mean, I really hope that people aren't asking you to take off your shoes so they can look at your feet, or
Actually, sweatpants. If Twilio gets on the sweatpants, we need pants.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
Hi everyone. To quickly introduce myself, my name is Whitney Green. I'm the general manager for Hack and Why. Is that better? Should I beatbox? No. I can though. I just wanted to make a really general comment and kind of taking a step back from the conversation. I think it's important to really recognize the importance of partnerships in this conversation, and stepping back and realizing that it's not just about hackathons, but this is about a conversation of including identities that feel more or less excluded from a general conversation, and how do you go about including them. So when I say the idea of partnership, I mean that in that you're in really wonderful leadership positions to really facilitate conversations in ways that perhaps cannot happen before. And my first thought in hearing a lot of this conversation is that if the first time you're reaching out to a particular identity is to invite them to your event, and for solely that reason, then that should make you tilt your head a little bit. Ideally, you should have reached out to them beforehand and say, hey, we're united by an interest, not by an identity, but by this interest of how do we go about hacking and building things and being freaking awesome. And that specific interest can really unite you in some pretty incredible ways. And you should maybe think to yourself, instead of just having them come to my events, have I been to their events? Have I gone out of my way to be included and involved in their community and their identity and their perspective of campus as well? And a lot of times when you can open up and facilitate conversations in that way, when a time comes for you to say, hey, make sure you come to this hackathon, you might find a much lower barrier and fence than trying to do that without that prior conversation. So something to keep in mind when you're thinking about some of those larger campus conversations.
Hear, hear.
Yeah.
Let's give a really, really big round of applause for all of our panelists up here. Thank you.